The summer heat lingered over the city like an old quilt, heavy and stifling. Dust hung in the air, kicked up by passing wagons and the tired boots of laborers returning from work. It was in that kind of sweltering evening that a small boy, no older than 8, wandered down the narrow alley behind his family's apartment building. His mother had sent him to fetch water from the pump on the corner, but the boy walked slowly, dragging the dented tin pail. His bare feet smudged black from the street. At the edge of the alley, he stopped suddenly. There, crouched in the shadow of a broken fence, was a dog. It was a dark brown dog, skinny ribs showing through a patchy coat, eyes round and solemn like a beggar's. The boy stared. The dog stared back, ears twitching. The boy had seen stray dogs before, but this one was different. There was something almost human in the way it lowered its head, inching forward as if afraid to be struck. "Hey," the boy whispered. He glanced back at the pump, then crouched down. "Come here, fella." The dog crept forward, belly nearly brushing the ground. When it reached the boy, it stopped and sat, tail twitching nervously. The boy reached out with a hand that trembled, not from fear but from a strange new feeling, a kind of tenderness he didn't yet understand. The dog flinched at the touch but didn't pull away. "You're awful skinny," the boy said. "Ain't nobody feeding you?" The dog leaned closer, pressing its bony side against the boy's knee as if answering. The boy grinned. He forgot the water pump, forgot the heat, forgot the scolding he would earn when he returned home empty-handed. In that moment the alley, the dust, the city, all of it faded. There was only a boy and a dark brown dog, each lonely in his own way. The boy smuggled scraps to the alley whenever he could. Bread crusts, potato peels, even bits of gristle saved from the family's meager suppers. The dog never complained, never barked, never demanded. He ate what he was given, licking the boy's fingers afterward with a gratitude that felt deeper than words. Sometimes the boy would sit with the dog for hours, talking about things he couldn't tell anyone else. About his father's heavy boots on the stairs late at night. About his mother's silence when coins ran out before the week's end. About the way schoolboys laughed at his torn shirt and bare feet. The dog listened, always listened. It wasn't long before the boy began sneaking the dog upstairs when no one was looking. He'd tuck the animal beneath his bed, warning him to stay quiet. Miraculously, the dog obeyed, lying still for hours as though he understood the stakes. But secrets in cramped homes rarely last long. One night, when the father came home smelling of ale, he stumbled into the boy's room and heard the faint thump of a tail against the floorboards. "What's this?" the man barked, yanking the dog out by the scruff. "A mongrel in my house." The boy cried out, clinging to the dog's neck. "Please, Pa. He don't do no harm. He's my friend." The father's eyes narrowed, hard as iron. He raised a hand as if to strike, but the mother appeared in the doorway, her face pale. "Leave it be," she said quietly. "The boy has so little. Let him keep the dog." The father grumbled, dropped the animal, and stomped off toward the kitchen. The boy clutched the trembling dog, whispering promises into its ragged fur. "You're safe," he said. "I won't let nobody hurt you." Life with the dark brown dog was not easy. Food was scarce even for the family, and every scrap given to the dog meant one less bite for the boy. Yet the boy never wavered. He grew inventive, slipping past bakeries to beg stale rolls, hanging around tavern doors where drunkards sometimes tossed bones into the street. The dog followed faithfully, never leaving the boy's side. Neighbors began to notice. Some chuckled at the sight of the scrawny child and his scrawnier companion. Others muttered that the dog would bring fleas and trouble. The boy ignored them all. On cold nights, when the thin blanket did little to keep out the chill, the boy curled against the dog's warm body. On mornings when his father's temper rose like a storm, the dog stood silently between boy and man, not with growls or teeth, but with the quiet courage of presence. The boy learned something then. Love was not loud or showy. It was quiet, patient, unyielding. The father despised the dog. Perhaps it was jealousy, resentment that the boy poured affection into a creature instead of fearing and obeying his parent. Perhaps it was simply the cruelty of a man hardened by poverty and drink. One evening, when supper consisted only of boiled turnips, the father kicked the dog aside, snarling that it ate too much. The boy threw himself between them, tears streaming down his face. "He's mine. Don't hurt him." The father's hand struck the boy's cheek, leaving a welt. "You'll learn who runs this house," he growled. The dog whined, licking the boy's face as if to soothe the sting. That night, the boy held the dog tighter than ever, whispering through his tears, "One day we'll run away. Just you and me." But where could an 8-year-old boy and a starving dog run to? Despite hardship, there were moments of happiness. On bright afternoons, the boy and the dog would slip down to the river, where willows leaned over the water. There the boy threw sticks, and for the first time, the dog revealed his playful side. He splashed into the shallows, bounding back with dripping fur, eyes shining with something like laughter. The boy laughed too. Real, belly-deep laughter that startled him with its unfamiliar sound. For a little while, the city's grime and his father's anger felt far away. He even gave the dog a name, Shadow, because wherever the boy went, the dark brown dog followed. Winter came early that year. Frost crept through the cracked window panes, and hunger gnawed sharper than ever. The father grew meaner, his wages dwindling to nothing. The mother grew thinner, her hands raw from endless scrubbing. For Shadow, survival became desperate. The boy shared every crumb, but sometimes days passed with nothing more than water. The dog's eyes grew hollow, yet he never left the boy's side. One night, when snow piled against the door, the father announced, "The mutt goes tomorrow. We can't feed useless mouths." The boy's heart seized. He lay awake, listening to the dog's steady breathing. Then, in the darkness, he made a decision. Before dawn, the boy slipped from bed, bundling himself in his thin coat. He tied a bit of rope around Shadow's neck like a leash. Quiet as a ghost, he opened the door and stepped into the frozen street. They walked for hours, feet numb, breath clouding in the air. The boy didn't know where they were going, only that it must be away. Away from fists, away from hunger, away from the threat of losing his only friend. By midday, they reached the edge of the city where warehouses loomed. There, the boy found shelter in an abandoned shed. He huddled with Shadow, sharing a heel of bread. For 3 days they hid, scavenging what little they could. For 3 days they tasted freedom, though it was laced with fear and cold. But the city is not kind to strays, whether boy or dog. Spring crept slowly into the city. With it came sickness. The boy fell ill, fever burning, body weak. He could barely lift his head, let alone fetch scraps. Through it all, Shadow stayed. He lay beside the boy, warming him, refusing to leave even when hunger clawed at his belly. One evening, the mother found the dog gone. She thought he'd abandoned them at last. But later he returned, dragging with him a piece of bread stolen from somewhere. He dropped it before the boy, tail wagging faintly. The boy ate, tears in his eyes. "You saved me," he whispered. Day after day, Shadow disappeared and returned with scraps, bones, crusts, whatever he could steal or scavenge. His body grew weaker, thinner. But the boy grew stronger. Until one morning Shadow did not return. The boy waited by the door, calling his name until his voice cracked. He searched the alleys, the river, the shed where they once hid. No sign. At last, near the butcher's shop, he found him, lying still, a smear of blood on the cobblestones. Caught and struck down for stealing, the faithful dog had given everything for his boy. The boy fell to his knees, gathering the limp body into his arms. His cries echoed through the street, raw and breaking. They buried Shadow in the vacant lot behind the building, the boy digging with his bare hands until the soil tore his fingers. The mother watched silently, her eyes wet though she said nothing. The father scoffed but did not interfere. For weeks, the boy returned to the little grave, whispering stories as if Shadow still listened. Slowly, the grief dulled into something else, not less painful but steadier. A memory carved deep, unshakable. He never forgot what the dark brown dog had taught him, that love was not loud, nor easy, nor safe. It was sacrifice. It was loyalty beyond reason. Years later, when the boy had grown into a man, people would ask him why he cared so deeply for the lost, the broken, the strays of the world. He would only smile, his hand unconsciously brushing the scar on his cheek where his father once struck him. And in his mind's eye, he would see a pair of solemn brown eyes, filled with patience, courage, and love. The love of a dark brown dog.